It's been just over 24 hours since the verdict in the Trump hush money trial was announced, where a jury found him guilty on all 34 charges.
Yeah, the former president says he will appeal his conviction as the political shockwaves are felt throughout the country. We begin our coverage with Michael George, who's reporting from outside Trump Tower.
Former president and now convicted felon Donald Trump said his team will appeal a New York jury's guilty verdict as he railed against the judge.
We're going to be appealing it on many different things. He wouldn't allow us to have witnesses. He wouldn't allow us to talk. He wouldn't allow us to do anything.
Trump was convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records related to a payment his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, made to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 election to keep her quiet about an alleged sexual encounter. Legal experts say her salacious testimony may be one area the defense targets for appeal.
The defense asked for a mistrial right after that testimony, and I think we can expect to see that again in an appellate brief.
As he has throughout the trial, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee once again claimed without evidence the case was orchestrated by his political rival.
This is all done by Biden and his people.
President Biden, who'd remained silent throughout the trial, pushed back Friday, noting it was a state, not federal case.
Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself, and it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict.
Sentencing is set for July 11th, just days before the Republican National Convention. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now, some voters are sharing how this conviction may or may not change what they do in the ballot box come November for the presumptive GOP presidential nominee and President Biden. A lot is riding on what voters will do in those closely divided swing states. Willie James Inman has more from Washington.
As many voters weigh their 2024 presidential choice, some are weighing in on the Republican candidate's felony conviction.
Finally, I feel like a little bit of justice is served.
We have to stand by our president right now in our country. If we don't, we're going to lose everything.
Opinions about the trial seem divided along party lines. With a tight race between former President Trump and President Biden, November's election will likely come down to 7 states that could swing to either candidate. Voters in those states who spoke with us say the guilty verdict does not change their vote.
If I could do cartwheels, if he got convicted, I would do cartwheels. I'm so ecstatic that people came through.
I'm still voting for Donald Trump. I think this whole thing has been a mockery. I'm embarrassed for our country.
Polls conducted before the verdict found only a small percentage of Trump supporters said they would reconsider their vote with the conviction. So far, new polling is limited. Pollster and consultant Frank Luntz.
No evidence that people have moved away from Donald Trump. No evidence that they've moved towards him. The undecided just maybe giving Joe Biden another look. It's too close to call.
Luntz says in the end, the election could hinge on undecided voters deciding they do not want to vote for a convicted felon. Willie James Inman, CBS News, Washington.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man.
The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
As previously mentioned, the judge has set Trump's sentencing for July 11th, and that's 4 days before the Republican National Convention. Trump faces up to 4 years in prison, but he could be given probation